Hey everybody, this is Brad Dyke saying hi. Today we are going to be talking about logic instead of hardware, like I did my last video. And as I've been paying attention to some of the things that have been asked of me, which have been really great questions, really in-depth stuff, I do want to respond to one person who had made a reference to, hey, I've got the resources, I've got the know-how, I can do this, but I just need a reason. I need to have a justification for making my lab turn into something that's productive. And he had asked me to, I think it was a he asked me to consider the fact that maybe I could have a video talking about the nature of how we look at something that we see. May it be, oh, who knows, an old series network card, right? Sitting in a bend, not doing anything, having a job, and figuring out, what, I could play with this way and shape it that way and flip it over this way and use a couple of other devices, put them together with a little bit of duct tape and some screws and nuts and bolts and a couple of RJ45 connector heads, and I got myself a 2.5 gigahertz bandwidth. You know, um, Learning how to take things to the next level. So, what does that mean? Well, as you look at the hardware that you see here, you have right here a Nortel switch that's, oh, I don't know, 12 years old versus a standard 8-year switch versus a fairly new Juniper switch, which is right down there, versus a kickbutt 10 gigabit versus a very antiquated Belkin OmniView Pro KVM switch, panels, sectionals, outdated computers that have turned into a cluster, and so much more. And the key thing here is that what I did was I filled a niche. Now, what do I mean by filling a niche? Well, you see, tools are just that. They're tools. And having them doesn't equate to meaning that you have something you can do with them, right? If you don't have an engine to work on, what good are your automotive tools, right? It's the same thing about taking the technology sense of something that was made 10 years ago, like this wireless PC, right? And transforming it into something completely different by shoving and cramming other parts into it and then theorizing, hey, I could produce my own home based server environment. Now, there is the good one for everyone to consider doing in their home IT labs. We kind of get stuck in the mindset of a server. What is a server? A server is not a machine that you log into. It's not that at all. It's a device that's providing a function that serves you. Hence, it is a server of features and functions. So, for example, let's say you're into photography, right? And there's something very important that's just happened recently, and that is 4K and 8K camera systems. Well, their photographs are a lot more than you think they are. Matter of fact, there's so much data in an 8K photo that if you had the right tools, the right CPU processing power, and a small couple of sets of database systems that can sit there and scream out the data, you could see things that the human eye could never see. You overlay those as ones and zeros, and then you give them color. So by doing that, you can actually add addendum values to a photograph of things we could never see with the human eye that a 4K or an 8K photo can do. But to make that happen, you need a small cluster that can derive the information, maybe establish a couple small databases so you can build some metastore data. That's the data that's hidden behind the photo, by the way. You extrapolate that data out, you dump it into your database, you have the crunching power of your server. That's the job it's to do. It's to crunch the numbers on your metastore, and it spits out a new photo completely different than the photo you initially look like you see right now with me and you. A couple million colors, not black and white, but with new hued, let's say neon colors to represent totally different things in the room that you could never see. Like over here behind me, that bluing highlight in the background could be a brilliant brightness due to AK analysis. That's one example. That's just for the photo enthusiast. I've told my son, who loves to take photographs, son, you got a NAS. Bingo. Tens of thousands of pictures a month, unfortunately. But the point is, he has the ability to store them. He has the ability to manage them. He can use and create old hardware to do a simple task. Other people who say, hey, my company doesn't have much money. What can I do with eBay? What can I do with resources? Get your company to invest a little bit of money into what we call one set POCs, one set point of concept designs. A great example of that is you see these little 3.0 USB 3.1, 3.0 standard mechanical discs. And they wanted to do something, they wanted to really maximize the bandwidth, and they did not want a spinning drive. Could they use that as a mobile backup device? Well, a couple of you guys got really smart, saw some of my videos, and you turned around and you made the decision to do the following. One of you guys got really smart and you jumped out there and you got one of these little guys. Let me bring it in and focus here a little bit better. And this is basically an NVMe to a SATA power output design interface, which then could go into a small chassis very similar to this one, and acts basically like a 2.5-inch SATA SSD drive, but is completely maximized. And by that simple reinventation, they just took a small item, new technology, stuck it in an old box, and this only cost $12, and you can get a $35 high-end transfer 250 gig block assignment here for NVMe, and the next thing you've got is something as exactly capable and as competent as this extremely high fast NVMe USB 3.1 standard connection interface. This is a 1 terabyte setup, and basically in a nutshell, this was more cost effective. But that's the whole point of doing this in such a way so that you can think big. You can think out the box. You can think outside the box. Heck, you could tear the box down and make a triangle. And it's really great to be able to just pull yourself out of what they call the norm and put yourself in your norm. So to continue this discussion, the next thing I would say is, remember what I said? Reinvent the term server. Servers do not have to serve you like a website or a database or an executable or an app. Instead, what they can do is they can run your automotive office. They can do TCAC. They can run diagnostic programs. They can emulate oscilloscopes and transfer a multi-$100 device into a $10 piece of software that you can run a benchmark for your automotive vehicles or your electronics. The ceiling is, the far, far from the limit that you can do with this. Now, the other thing about this that's important is as you're inventing yourself, for instance, one of you said, hey, I want to take a Wi-Fi and a Wi-Fi and a Wi-Fi and a Wi-Fi, and it's going to be so secure. And it was very secure. It was so secure he couldn't change the passwords in the lowest level of Wi-Fi. But he invented a new strategy that actually would prevent hackers from being able to get to the Wi-Fi devices by tiering Wi-Fi layers, top, middle, bottom, and then the most secure being 5 or 6 Wi-Fis below. The key details in these wonderful thoughts is people are thinking outside the box for the things that they have because they have them lying around. Why not? Take advantage of it. Same thing with temperature, climate control. Now, I'm not a fan of using this technology for security of your home. No, not really. You need to have ownership of the security of your home. Never defer to a machine. That's just inviting attack. But outside of that, everything from people who love their gardens, that's a great example. They use humidity USB transmitter stacks that send out telemetry back to the server that collects the data. And it's just a simple box, $15, $25 box with 2 hard drives in it that collect the data, generate a what do they call it? A moisture level content mapping of the garden. It tells them when to water. If those people who want to know those kind of things. Also, really cool stuff I've heard from farmers who are learning how to use segmentations. They go out and they buy these old antiquated Wi-Fi network nodes known as access points, and they put a small amount of power down a street section area of their farmlands, and it can generate telemetry reports for their farm. And that's valuable information because, a lot of times farmers make or break, and if they can just do a little bit of pro work and tinker a little bit, they can use the software that's already out there, some recycled hardware. Who knows? It could have even been a 10-year-old computer. It's all they need. So, think about the fact that you can do that. Now, let's keep going, but on the other side of the fence. As you guys remember, that I did the Proxmox cluster design, right? Using these Opti 7040 Dell mini PCs. Now, these little guys were really cool because they're 64-bit processors, they're i7s, i5s, and they have all the baselines of PCIe, and they can do NVMe, and they can do SSD SATA and SSD compliant stacks, and those are really cool. Compliant stacks means that you can plug into the second plug-in. You take out the wireless module, and you can put in another NVMe style card which can add additional capacity to the unit. So we use these as an example, or I should say I use these as an example, along with some low-end iDock iStock style USB 3.0 caddy stacks to provide a very low cost, low heat, low power consuming. I want to make my first IT lab design. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm referring to the fact that not all of you have a lot of money. Not all of you have a rack. Not all of you even have a closet to work with. All you got is a space on the side of your desk. So what? You go out there and you get yourself some small computers or Raspberry Pis, and you can learn a lot of code. You can learn deployments. You can understand how does DevOps work better than using standard operations kind of strategies. And you can build them so quick and so easy and so efficiently. It's like, it's a no-brainer. And you don't need a lot of money, just a couple of $100 and a couple of nodes, and you got everything you need. Just a network switch to add to it and rock and roll. Merry Christmas. The other really cool thing you can do is, and I think this is really cool for you astrophysicists out there who want to have their own little, how would you say, data miners of sorts of celestial objects and things like that. Understand that you can build numerical clusters out there that can crunch your photo data with your telescopes, combining with what's called open lens data capture assemblies, which can go on your scopes. They are specialized lens caps that have sensors on them that can do the 4K and the 8K, and you can actually produce yourself a small personal style radio telescope or a lens-based telescope. You have a couple of these little small boxes here. Again, you're not having to spend a lot of money. You're just recycling stuff from eBay. How can you not take advantage of that? And so much more. For all of you true hardcore techies out there who know what the Oracle Plus SSD flash cache arrays are, and so on and so on and so on, and the nuances between protocols like 10 gig RJ45 versus SPF and so on, you can get out there some pretty old equipment that doesn't have quite the restrictions that the newest technology has today that tries to force you into locking your protocols down. You can play as network architects. You can tinker. You can have some fun. Look, software is very important. Hardware is the canvas that software works on. So understand the equilibrium between the two of these, and you'll understand how your own skill sets will get better as you go forward. I'm all for you guys reinventing what you have in front of you. Make it something new, something that's spun to the right opposed to spinning to the left. Now, to be most efficient at this, the very core piece of information I recommend to everybody is don't learn vendors' hardware. Don't. Learn how the protocol works that hardware is made to work on. If you master the protocol, even 50%, the 42 core protocols of IT industry, that's ranging from TCP all the way over to MDM to um, how databases functions, SQLnet protocols, and so on like that. Everything for the whole gambit. When you know the protocols, then you know what the vendors are writing their hardware to work on. And they'll have those features there. I don't care if it's RAID stack protocols or HBA protocols, they all have to meet the same features so that the protocols can do what they're supposed to do, provide you the enterprise equivalency of performance. So, with that being said, I think I've talked to ideas about working outside, working inside. If you've got money and you have some resources, maybe a rack or two, you can do the high end stuff. But I've also talked about the low end stuff for all of you upstarts that are just learning how to come out of code and get into the real world of IT, which is hardware and software, as well as design and implementation. And then that leaves us with the last part. For all of you paranormal people out there, like my wife, I'm not a paranormal person. And for all of you who are into things like things that are not normal, like how can I track a magnetic field over 10 square acres or something like that and bring me back the telemetry so I can modify magnetic field variances of the earth or something scientific like that. Look, absolutely. It's very doable. USB Wi-Fi devices, that's basically the little USB sticks you plug into devices to give you Wi-Fi, have good range, can run on very little power, and you can put a Raspberry Pi, a small memory stick, a Wi-Fi adapter into a small pod with a battery and a solar cell, stick it in the ground, put a whatever Hull area effect, if you want to put, that's a magnetic sensor by the way, a Hull area effect sensor out there, and it gives you some telemetry information. And you can put one out every 0.5 acres or something like that, and it will give you the variance of the magnetic field. Or you can do a gravimetrical sensor stack on the same device, and so on and so on. If you've got enough solar cells, you can do anything. All the hardware is out there. All you have to do is piece it together and start testing it and putting some software code together and start having some fun with it. Now, for the last of you guys out there who say, well, what good is this if I have a game? If I love my games and I love to do the things with my games and so on and so on. Well, to be honest, the truth is not so much. But what I can tell you is this. What we use today, ray trace, the advanced graphical interfaces, and so on, have only gotten to the level of let's say the equivalency of a GeForce 1070. At best, a 2070. But out there, they're trying to push the 5000 series cards. You can use the same tactic to buy real performance hardware at a realistic and true cost that fits your budget. You do need to do your research. There are some GeForce Series 1000s, 2000s, the 3000s, and 4000s that are a piece of junk. And if you don't do your research on any of these strategies, you're going to have some delays. I have them. I'm not invincible. I had a mistake just recently, and I have to caveat, spin to the left, and adjust to make it work. So my thing to you is when it comes to performance, especially with gaming and things like that, eBay has brought a lot of stuff out there that can offer more cost-effective solutions, ranging from mice to keyboard combinations. Controller interfaces and USB bridge systems are really cool. You can actually build yourself a cost-effective cockpit style design by using these devices in a different way than they were initially planned for, like graphical runs. You can reprogram the keys and they can become a cockpit opposed to buying the $500 joystick or something like that. You can think outside the box in that sense and take advantage of it. The other important thing is please be careful. As you're doing this, just take a little extra time. Research the vendor or the seller or the reseller or the recycler that you're wanting to buy from. Take a little bit of time, investigate their back history. This helps you from getting scammed. And there are plenty of videos out there about getting scammed. I'm slow to buy, thorough on check normally. I've never been scammed because I do those two extra steps. And as you're doing this, I do want you to be cautious. I want you to be frugal. Always go for the make offers versions opposed to just the straight prices. Try to get that price down. That's part of the delivery process, right? Save yourself some money. And I don't care if you're a farmer or if you are an IT guru that has millions of dollars to spend, but is very frugal in his mindset. That's good, and that's the right way to do this. So for today's 1, 2, 3, I thought I would go ahead and say, hey, I wanted to give you guys some just top level ideas. There are tens of thousands of them. Please post to my forum if you want under this video what you think would be really cool. I am looking for somebody to figure out how to get past wire meshing and plaster-sized walls, because that's really true and proven to be quite a pain in the butt to deal with older homes, and Wi-Fi doesn't do too well with that. So there's an idea for one of you to figure out. I'm not sure how best that would work, but it's something to think about. Well, this is Brad Dyke signing off. I hope you guys have a great week, and God bless and take care.